Welcome to Rock Solid, the Round Rock Business Leaders Podcast. Join your host, Bryan Eisenberg, as he explores the journeys of entrepreneurs and companies across Round Rock, Texas. From startups and nonprofits to large organizations, each guest shares their passion for doing business in this thriving community. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rock Solid. I'm Bryan Eisenberg, and I'm here with my friend Tracey Janowitz. Welcome.
Hello.
I'm so glad to have you here because there's so many interesting pieces to your life and to your husband's life and everything that you're doing and your journey here that I kind of want to dive into all that. But the first thing I want to really dive into today is you've been a serial entrepreneur, again, also with your husband for many years. And, you know, now that I'm in a business with my wife, I'm curious some of the lessons you've learned over those years and how you got to decide that first business together.
Awesome. Well, how far back should I go?
You share what you need to share.
All right, I'll take it to the beginning because it's kind of a good story, and maybe I'll capture someone to stick around and listen a little more. But yeah, so true. My husband and I, we have been co-entrepreneurs for the last 16 years. So, but before that, it's kind of a funny story how we met and just kind of how our life goes, and still kind of how our life is. So, like I said, people that know us, like we have a yin and a yang, and so. And my husband will push me in ways that kind of put my feet to the fire where I'm more of the, the voice of reason or not want to take action as quickly. And so it works out really well. But so we met, if we can say this, we met in a bar in Chicago over St. Patrick's Day. Oh my gosh, maybe 18 years ago. We met and we moved in 3 weeks later. We got engaged 6 months later. I got pregnant with our daughter on our wedding night, had a baby, bought a house, opened our first gym, which some of y'all here in Texas may know as Patriot Sports and Fitness or Patriot MMA and Wrestling, depending how you search and what you're looking for. So we opened a brand new business. I worked for Nordstrom for 10 years, right? That's kind of my degrees in fashion, merchandising, and business. I had no intention of getting into fitness, wellness. I exercise, but that was kind of the extent of it. Didn't even play sports or anything like that. And so we opened our first gym in 2010 in Elmhurst, Illinois. And so as entrepreneurs, it's kind of one of those things that was all in. And I think that still we bring that mentality, especially as an entrepreneurial spirit. It was an all-in mentality. My husband and I had worked for, they were LA Boxing back in the day, but now you know them as UFC gyms. Yep. And the gym that he was a manager at the time, many years ago, was going out of business. And so we found a warehouse space. We just drove around, find a building. It was quite big at the time. It was 5,000 square feet, and it ended up expanding into over 10,000 square feet, our very first gym. And in that time, I was still working at Nordstrom, pregnant with my daughter, and when you talk about pivotal moments in your life, this would be the most pivotal moment that shaped everything else thereafter. And so 2010, the best time of my life, met my husband, we got married, had a baby, opened a business, worked for a company that I loved for many years at Nordstrom. And that same year, my mom got diagnosed with lung cancer. It happened kind of right after our honeymoon. It was one of those things, it just went from bad to worse. So new baby, new mom, even getting married and changing my last name. My mom, who I was really very close with, my best friend, got diagnosed with lung cancer that was very progressive, opened a brand new business. I stepped away from a role that I loved for many years at Nordstrom. And then that would have been in September. And then I lost my mom that February. So brand new baby, one car, smaller family, didn't have a lot of extra help, but opening a new business. My mom's at Northwestern Hospital, baby can't come in. My husband's running a gym, so it made things very difficult. And so I think right then and there, even today in this moment, it's like, oh, you say you made people cry and all that. I was like, you better not make me cry, but this is always something that will stir up things, even so many years later. So I think that was pivotal. Like I changed my last name. I went into a new decade of life. I was 29, turning 30. I became a mom. I lost my mom in the same year. I became a wife. So having to learn and navigate marriage, and then opening a brand new business, throwing everything we had into that business, and then also being able to navigate when I lost my mom as a new husband and wife, and being able to grieve. And to this day, I still grieve, and it's a rhythm. And I think it's one of those things that people share. It's like a club you don't want to be a part of, but until have lost, I guess you're a parent, a mom or a mother or a father. I'm in that club. I've lost both. It's hard for other people to really understand, and for my husband to understand why 3 months later I was still upset and crying. So the happiest of times and the lowest of times, and one of the most pivotal moments in my life of just who I am, who I thought I was, and then something as so simple as changing my last name, and how that just took on new roles and changed my identity. So I think that is probably important to the conversation, because it shaped everything else that I do, what I'm passionate about, how we live our life, how we raise our family, and how we participate and show up for each other in our marriage. So working together with my husband, that also, so like one piece of advice, we work opposite of each other.
Okay.
I think that for us was something that, we're peers, but we work better when we kind of work opposite, and being able to create that space. And then still 16 years later, being married, like we plan for that connection time, that one-on-one time, even aside from our kids, because before we had our kids, it was him and I. And so that's something that my husband's really great at always bringing to the forefront, which again kind of spills over into everything else that we'll speak to. So now we have 2 gyms. They're in shipping containers. We moved here during COVID 2020. We've since some of our members have purchased our Patriot on Elmhurst, Illinois. Moved here, not knowing anyone but one person. My husband is in the Navy, knew another Navy veteran here. And that's where I come in. I'm a community builder. We didn't know anyone here. I have 2 young kids in a new school and a new place during COVID, in a place at that time where people are telling you stay away, don't engage with people, don't make connections. And another transformative point of our lives to be able to essentially open a brand new business. We moved cross country. Our gym was shut down because of COVID, because of fear of rioting also that was happening in Chicago at that time. And then to be able to open up essentially a brand new business, and then to make it work, and to bring people in and grow community. I think that's really what you'll want me to speak to further along. So.
Well, I kind of want to take a little bit of a detour, because I heard a couple of real key moments there, and we share a lot of similar stories. My wife and I got married, honeymoon baby. Her mom passed right there. My dad passed a few years after that. So a lot of that. But what I'm hearing, and I find so powerful in your story, is, first of all, you decided to open a gym after the gym that he was working at closed down. Then there was all this kind of adversity that faced your life. And for those that don't know, your husband is a professional fighter as well. How does that mindset apply, and how did you get past that adversity? Because a lot of people are dealing with adversity today, and they're struggling. They may not be even talking about how much they're struggling, but you guys have thrived through a lot of that. What was that mindset?
Absolutely. Great segue. For clarification, the gym didn't shut down. It was forced to be shut down because of COVID, but still in operation. So we still had that, and Nick was flying back and forth. So this is where I'll say, sometimes you're the neck and sometimes you're the shoulders. And so my husband, because I think of the life that he lived before he met me, is definitely my rock, and supports me through all of that adversity. And that just goes to show you that his journey to how we got here, and my journey of how I got here, he can handle adversity and setbacks and challenges so much stronger than the average man or woman. And I would attest that to where we talk about, and we'll probably get into that, formal wellness, where physical health directly impacts mental health.
Sure.
So because of how we competed at such a high level, because of wrestling in the Navy, because of, unofficially he attempted to break world records in pull-ups and burpees, doing over 7,000 pull-ups, doing over 10,000 burpees, and so, extreme,
yes.
But that doesn't mean, and for so many years, I think I always even though Nick would never put that pressure on me ever, I always felt like this need. Nick works nonstop. He never takes a break. I need to be doing those things. And at the end of the day, like, we're totally separate in how we arrive and how we thrive. But how we got through adversity was my husband, and being married, being surrounded by someone, having a partner in life, and someone that, can handle such adversity in such a positive way that life isn't happening to you. It's just happening. This is our journey. This is what happens, and we execute. So we've learned how to evolve our business of opening up as just strictly like a wrestling MMA club at the time. And then this was before your Orange Theories and your boutique fitnesses, like our bread and butter was the group exercise boxing classes. And then we had Orange Theories and all these amazing gyms that people love amenities and will pay for, but we're a down and dirty, no frills kind of place. So then we had to transition again. And then we introduced the kids programs, because you get to the kids, you get to the parents. And so like, we always stayed true to what kind of business we are in the gym. But then we've learned how to evolve, and we've learned how to be fluid. So rather than fighting it and have that victim mindset sometimes of like, oh, this is only happening to me, and I'm the only one dealing with this. And that's why community is going to be so strong, because, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we feel like islands. And then you go to a networking meeting where I met you, essentially, Bryan, and you start to hear like, oh, wait a minute, it's not just me. But, and that's why the power of community is so important, especially on a business level, but just on a getting through life level. So I would say that's how we handled it. I'll stop there. I talk a lot. I can go on from there, but I'll let you guide me, Bryan.
No problem. I'm curious, because obviously as an extreme fighter, right, that he's done, and the training he's had, obviously, and his service that he served for the country as well, what has he learned from you about wellness that obviously in his training wasn't part of his training, but maybe he's evolved?
What has he learned from me? He's learned how to soften.
Okay.
He's learned how to listen in different ways, right? He is not like all men, but a lot of men, like, right? There's times you're talking, but you're not listening, I'm sure that's a struggle or something that comes up in many marriages, but giving me space and knowing when to recognize that, even though he might not be able to fully understand it, especially with the grieving of my mom. That was a really, really hard season for both of us. And then raising young kids. I think that we have a really great dynamic of when I can communicate what I need, he 100% gives me whatever I need all the time. There's never a doubt in my mind that every single day that my husband wouldn't give his life for myself, for our family. There's never a doubt in my mind that we're not number one every single day. So, and then in turn, he allows me to be able to soften him in ways. He's inspired by me, I think, in the ways I can build relationships, how I can engage so easily and authentically. And I just think my enthusiasm for what we're growing and evolving into with Hippo Social Club, and integrating that into how we live our life as a family. It's not something we just go to, and it's something we live in, wellness, every single day. But I don't know, there's more, because I bring a lot to the table in this marriage, and I just not been asked that. So let me come back to that, because I know that I contribute more than what I'm giving you here.
Well, no, absolutely, because I'm thinking about this gym. Obviously, I haven't been to it, right? But I'm imagining the down and dirty gyms. I've been in plenty. My son's trained in a gym that focused True Grind Systems in Cedar Park for years. So I get that mentality, but you contrast that with this wellness club.
Yes,
and I find that contrast so interesting, because it is almost like a black and a white.
Yes.
Is it deliberate that it's so different, or just the way you started viewing wellness evolved?
That's great. Okay, you're helping me. I think perspective. And so I think at our core, men or women, like I said, wherever you fall, like in your wellness or whatever it is that you bring that's valuable to you, I think that there's a million ways, and I'll speak to it in wellness, and because that is my lens and that is what I'm passionate about and what I can bring into reference here. But I think at our core, we all need the same things, whether I'm a strong alpha male, right, or I'm a feminine woman, right, still strong, and I feel in a lot of ways. It's just different, but at the core, we all need to feel connection. Yep. We all need to feel that, I believe, connection to other people. We need to feel purposeful. We need to feel that we're contributing and making an impact. I think most people, right, our intentions are good. And so the contrast comes, and this is always what's made our gym special, 16 years. It doesn't matter if you come to our community in Round Rock or you were to go back to Elmhurst, you would go way back 16 years ago. Yep. You always had these characters. It was all walks of life. It's not one dimensional. You'd have the tough MMA fighter. You have the young kid. You'd have as my husband would say, the weekend warrior, and your soccer moms and women like me.
We might even find someone like Bill there.
Yeah, Bill, perhaps. You know what I mean? We'll let him in. So it's always worked because it's building community. Because we live and breathe it, and there's a difference in it. And I think after having kids, it's one of those things, I can tell my kids, we know what we need. Yep. And, you know what I mean? We don't need to listen to another podcast or read another book. That's part of the problem. Yep. We're so over inundated in consumption. We know what to do, and so our kids are always a source of inspiration of like, okay, well, you can't bring Johnny, we can do many things, but Johnny's with us, 3 days a week for 45 minutes, somebody, when Johnny's 10, 11 years old, someone's enabling him outside of this gym, whether, if he's overweight or he's diabetic or he's showing behavior signs of just can't focus or aggression, so it really comes down to creating environments that really support wellness, or on the flip of that is creating environments that don't test your willpower. So I think when we brought Hippo Social Club into it, it's about finding people where they are in their journey. But I've always been the one to soften it, because when you walk in and if all you saw was guys working out and doing MMA, and you're a mom like me, you'd probably say, this isn't the place for me. So with the expansion and the vision of Hippo Social Club, it was really about creating this bigger umbrella and being able to meet people where they are, wherever they are in their wellness journey, and have something for them when they arrive. But over all the years, people will come to us because they're seeking out maybe fitness at that time. But I can't tell you how many relationships have been repaired or how many times people have discovered about themselves.
I see it in the pictures on social media all the time.
Yes.
A bunch of my friends who show up to those events, and just the smiles on the faces and all of that. Absolutely.
Rock Solid is produced and recorded at Round Rock Studio. Located right here in Round Rock, our state-of-the-art studio is built for podcasters and creatives alike. We offer multiple professionally designed podcast sets, top-notch recording gear, and a full photography studio ready for any project. Whether you're launching a new podcast or upgrading your existing one, we can help with multi-camera recording, editing, and everything you need for success. Record with us at Round Rock Studio, your local podcasting partner.
And the community side of that, there's something when you arrive in environments that support like your growth or support where you want to be, the energy is different. The connection is more sincere and authentic. And I think that's where we find a lot of imbalance is like, if you say one of your goals is to eat better or to socialize in communities that are positive, but yet you continue to fall back to old habits, or you go to the fast food line, or you're going and eating out every day, and yet you're frustrated, like you're just out of balance, but you can change that. You can change it through behavior, through habit, through discipline. And I think it stems with, first, finding yourselves intentionally on purpose, being in environments that support that, because then you'll have others that are walking that journey alongside of you. But yours may be a different season than mine, and that's fine. Yep. There's something, I trust there's something in community that if I need to receive it, someone there is going to give it to me, and vice versa. So that's a very special thing, and I feel like it's a lost art, especially as we continue to be in a more tech, a more media kind of world.
Yes, as I say, we're more connected than ever, but we lack connection.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of those things like, I like to be alone lots of times, but it's usually when I can control that and it's intentional. Like, are we alone or are we lonely? And I think there's such a stark contrast. And I think it comes down to the intentionality of, being able to come to a point of pause and recognize, okay, am I lonely, or am I here because I'm being proactive in this space of being alone? Journaling, breath work, exercise, whatever
Cold
it is
plunge.
in alone,
Yeah.
cold plunge, sauna. But then also being able to do that in the community as well, and knowing when you need to give out that energy, but then also realizing, and the men and women I'm around, we're usually a lot of them are extroverts or forced extroverts, which even drains that battery even
Yep.
more. But I've really learned of like, okay, well, is this a season, or is this an hour that I can give and connect, or does this need to be an hour or 15 minutes where I need to fill myself back up? And when we're so plugged into so much noise and distraction, we flounder, and it shows up as sickness, it shows up as depression, it shows up as anger, frustration, that we see. So, yeah.
There's a few lessons I want to pull out from here, because I hear you. Obviously you came here. You knew one person who was a complete loner, and you've built successful businesses. And I imagine we have a lot of business owners that listen to our podcast. They may not have a built-in network. They don't know how to build a community. And I hear you started with your values and your foundations and creating a very intentional space. What would be your advice to them in terms of building that community? Because the community is where customers are at.
Yeah, there's so many answers I can give, and so many like moments in my life that I can be like, okay. And I think it was kind of a combination of the last 16 years of not realizing that it was rooted in community all along, but I just, the focus was different, or it just wasn't my time to arrive into that vision of how integral and vital community is. So it doesn't matter. I told you I worked for Nordstrom for 10 years, whether I'm selling clothes or I'm selling gym memberships or I'm selling a book. You have to find a way to make a connection in a relationship. And if that's something you don't do naturally, there's a lot of things I don't do well naturally, but it's one of those things like you're a marketer, you're doing everything. Most small business owners I know, especially in trying to run a business in today's day and age, everything, the overhead, everything is so expensive. So it's kind of one of those leap of faith, especially if I'm talking to someone out there that is just like cringing at the fact of going out and meeting people. You're doing yourself a disservice to your business, your really yourselves, your success of how you're going to thrive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you can have a great product. There's lots of great products, right? There's lots of businesses bigger than ours, bigger than yours, that have marketing dollars. And so for me, it's always come back to, okay, well, what's one of my God-given gifts? So I think I am naturally an extrovert. I can connect very easily. And I think I devalued that for a long time because it comes so easily for me. But I'd find those relationships through going out into an actual chamber event or a networking event, or seeking someone out, looking for people that have aligned visions or philosophies. But at the end of the day, you got to do what makes you uncomfortable, and you have to hustle. Like you have to hustle, meet people, things like that. Or find people like me. I'm a connector. We do fun things. So maybe it's meeting someone instead of not for coffee. Hey, let's go work out at, take a class. Like these are great ways to engage and find those people that just align with, your philosophy and your values. And people like to do business with people they know. And so we run a network that's super intentional because I know everybody in that network. At the end of the day, like this is someone I want to do life with. I just turned 45.
Yep.
Like I get to pick and choose. That's a blessing that, I've been able to create this life that I love to wake up to. And I know that many others aren't as fortunate as that. But it's been years in the making, but I'm at an age now where it's like I get to pick and choose. Who do I want to give my energy to, and who do I want to be in community with? And that's who I want to do business with. That's who I want to refer. That's who I want to grow relationships with. So,
yeah, it obviously sounds you guys are very intentional with everything about your life. And I want to talk just real quickly about the intentions behind the 36 acres of Hippo Social Club and the space and how you've used it to create community.
I'll start again just because I know a lot of business owners, and you might have some that maybe are thriving and been very successful in business, or you might have some that just, still working a full-time job and a job that they just don't align with and hate, and trying to figure out how to grow their passion into their livelihood. And so I think when we first started, right, 16 years ago, new entrepreneurs, not knowing, I think what happens then is like you get like this. And it's happened. We've lived through it. Like any other kind of relationship or a gym coming in, you'd be like, well, you feel threatened because you just don't know, And I think our biggest form of growth and how we're able to like introduce these new things and to just trust that everything is going to work out. And if it doesn't work out in the way it is, it's going to evolve in something better. So I'd say the biggest thing is collaboration, like collaborative. So Hippo Social Club in itself, that exists because of really amazing partnerships and collaboration. So the 28 acres of green space is a great collaboration and partnership we have with the HOA that exists right behind where our gym is. Also a great partnership with the church. We rent the land, we lease the land. So they needed to be on board with what we have going on and their commitment to community, knowing that we align with their goals and vision. So that's how the 20 acres existed. We're contracted to put those trails in, to run events through membership, through being able to patron in many different ways. And then we have our footprint, our infrastructure, our shipping containers. So that's on the front part of the land.
Okay.
So you've got 4 gym containers, boxing bags, heavy bags, wrestling mats. And then we have our expanded entity with Hippo Social Club essentially is just accessibility, making wellness convenient, making it someplace that's accessible, because it doesn't matter how bad you want to work out. If it's not accessible and it's not convenient, you're not going to do it. You'll find a way to put it off, and it's something you'll never do. So that is the intent, is creating this skeleton, essentially this ecosystem of all the things to help you live well. So that additional container, which would open up into what Hippo Social Club is another 40-foot container. It's a shared workspace. So if you're someone that is looking for outside of the box of just a coffee and a sit down and meet someone, that could look like a coffee and a cold plunge, and being able to connect through a sauna, being able to work a few hours, walk the trails, come back, take a workout, come back, eat really great food, meet somebody new. So we have the sauna, the cold plunge. We do lots of communal events there, but it's collaborative. Hippo Social Club is a collaboration of people. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be well and 100%, in physical health. No, we want people wherever you are in your journey. We just, it comes back to taking action to show up, and then trusting that our community and that culture that we're building and that footprint that we're growing can support your wellness.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen the pictures. I haven't been there yet. It is on my plan. It's been a busy month trying to get our new office space together. But for people who want to learn more and maybe want to get involved in, some kind of events, could you kind of describe the kind of events and where they'd see the type of events that you do? Absolutely.
We have, for the women out there, right? So we have, it's men and women, it's co-ed, but for the women, something that has really grown and evolved, right? Again, as entrepreneurs, business owners, sometimes I forget what book I read. I think it was, I'm picturing his face, football player. It'll come to me. Strahan? Mike Strahan, he wrote a book. And so one of the things I took from his book is just lines in the water. And like when I got a line, that's something that works well. So that would be our women's circle. So we run it regularly every Saturday morning. And so those have begun as just a community, a group of women. And so it's very approachable to teach you our framework at Hippo Social Club. So wellness is one of those things that's super complex. You know what I mean? I can tell you what wellness means to me. You're going to tell me something different. And we're not wrong. We're both right. And then the season that we're in life, or the day that we're in life, changes. So we have a framework that's based in our pillars, foundational pillars of fuel, movement, and connection, and then branches of nourishment to support those would be edible, what we eat, right? What we're literally consuming inside our physical bodies and how it impacts. Social. You know what I mean? Social nourishment, communities that we're in on purpose or not, right? And why, and supporting that wellness. 3 is experiential. So especially with women, men too, like my age, we become parents, or, we become successful in the roles that we're in. We forget to go back to that experiential branch of nourishment and how it can impact you, of doing things for just the joy of it, or the simplicity of it, or trying something for the first time. And then the 4th one is kinetic. So exercise, and then movement falls into that one as well. And the last one is biophilic, so connection to nature. So that is the framework that I bring into the circle every week. And it's changes every Saturday. And so to give my best take on that, it would be you would arrive, there's always a theme, a topic. I am your facilitator, but as much as I am facilitating, I am taking just as much away. It's intentional in a circle because you can engage with everyone, you can see everyone, you can't hide, kind of a thing. But you arrive as you are. You can arrive full and abundant. You can arrive dark and heavy. It doesn't matter that you're trusting there's someone there that has something that you need or something you can give. So we'll do some breath work. It's all levels, very approachable. It's just modalities. Like I'm just planting seeds.
Yep.
Maybe it's the breath work that caught you and the rhythm and how we did the breath work that Saturday. Maybe it's through the movement, through the sauna, through the cold plunge, through the workout. So we do all those things. And then we do activations. So that's where our wellness partners come in. We want to have a space, a campus. Whether you are a business that has physical locations, awesome. We'll partner that way also. But we find in behaviors as people, if it's not easy or accessible, we won't do it, even though we have intention. And so I'll fall by the wayside. I'll buy things on Amazon, mostly because it's easy and it's accessible, but I love to support local whenever I can. And so it might not be ideal for me to drive into this store and then to buy this at this store and that at this store. It's not realistic. It's not convenient. So we try and bring it all on our campus. So especially if you're a wellness partner or you do something that leans into wellness or personally you value your own physical and mental health in an intentional way where you're showing up every single day and being better than yesterday, you would love some of the activations. But beyond that, we run a full MMA, jiu-jitsu. Hippo Social Club gives you access to do all the things that we do at the gym. Also, another partnership with the gym. And then we do trail run events. We have a Healthy Kids running series. That's a great partnership with Healthy Kids. It's a nonprofit nationwide. And we do so many that I'm trying to, Turkey Trot. So we'll be doing our 3rd annual Turkey Trot in Hutto. That's also a pajama drive donation. That's also going to be another partner. So we just look for these opportunities to just bring as many people together as possible. And trusting that in that collaboration, you're expanding your network, so you might not like to network like this or meet someone like sit down more traditional, but maybe you would come to an event and you would network that way. So we just try and change the way we network. Traditional's great, but not having to wear a name tag, not having to give an elevator pitch is better. I don't always thrive in those environments. I can, and it's great. I make great relationships, but I usually find that those deeper connection and authentic relationships that really build and are sustainable are the ones that I'm meeting doing things that I enjoy doing, which is exercise, movement, doing things in community. So that's a little bit. But gym workouts, whatever you need it to be, you can work from our co-working space. We just give you the tools of what that looks like. And then we help you integrate a wellness prescription. I'll call it that, right? Because it's one of those things that you have to put into practice and it changes maybe what's needed on a certain day. And then go from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for everything you're doing to bring wellness to the community and really appreciate you spending your time with us today.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I think a good podcast off-site would be bringing Bryan out to the cold plunge, and we can answer questions by plunging back and forth.
Yeah.
Because then you'd have about a 3-minute, 30-second, and then you're out. You can only talk when you're in the plunge. So I can sit in it for a while, though. So
I've got some good tolerance. We'll see.
But this is great. Thanks for having me.